Hello, this is Angelic Voice ASMR, and today I'm going to be doing another writing ramble. This time I am going to be talking about my next attempt at doing NaNoWriMo after I tried and failed with the Schronican Chronicles. This time was a bit more successful, I'd say. Just a bit. In some ways, and less so in others. So the next one that I wrote was called What is Reality? It was a young adult novel, young adult kind of teen fiction-ish kind of novel that I wrote in my senior year of high school. So that was around, so senior year of high school in 2014. It was basically about this high school age girl who wakes up after an accident and realizes she has amnesia and schizophrenia. That is the part that I majorly regret, but it was a large part of the novel. It was very under-researched and very spur of the moment. Very inspired by the film version of the mathematician Nash's life. I can't remember his first name. Anyways, I was very inspired by A Beautiful Mind, which in itself is a flawed representation of Nash's schizophrenic experience, because Hollywood. But anyways, I digress. So it was basically about Olivia and her struggle with amnesia and schizophrenia, trying to find out what was going on in her life and that kind of thing, who she could trust. I had a little kind of blurb written up for the NaNoWriMo website, which reads as follows. Olivia wakes up in a hospital with no idea who she is or why she can see things that no one else can. The doctors say that she now has to deal with two hardships, amnesia and schizophrenia. The people who take her home claim to be her parents, but the voices claim otherwise. Her parents seem nice enough, but they make the voices go away. With little pills, Olivia's memories come back, but the voices make Olivia doubt what she sees. The voices say that she's someone important, but her parents say otherwise. Who to believe? The voices that speak of a utopia, or the ones that speak of a dystopia called reality? That summary is very cringy. That blurb is very cringy. I am so sorry. So yeah, that was basically a cluster. That story was basically a cluster of the beginnings of my interest in the more popular side of mental health, and just really with my interest with mental health in general. It was a way for me to fangirling about Hollywood mental health, and with Noel and I, and basically trying to finish NaNoWriMo with very little real research. So it is a very bad representation, and it is a novel that I hope to rewrite in a very different way. So, but I will get to that in a moment. So we've touched on Olivia. So we've got our characters, which are Olivia. We've got, I believe, if I recall correctly, she had 3 sort of main hallucinations, I guess, that were her friends. I cannot entirely recall the names of them. But anyway, she had those 3 kind of hallucination friends. She had a couple of friends, and there was her brother and her parents. Her brother was kind of a main-ish kind of character. Yeah, her brother was a bit of a main character. Her friends were kind of secondary characters. Yeah, it was mainly just her friends and the hallucinations and her brother that were mains. So that brings us to the next point, which is I do want to rewrite this book, although I do want to change some, like, majority of it, really. Honestly, I say rewrite, but really I just want to rework probably about 80% of this book. So, as it stands, we have Olivia, also called Liv. And she only struggles with anxiety, but that is a major part of the book. That is the plot of the book, is her struggles with anxiety and her attempts to get through this and get help, learn how to deal with anxiety. That is basically the main plot of the book. I'm still figuring out subplots at this point, so I haven't really started writing it beyond like the first couple paragraphs, I'd say. So I need to find some subplots for that, but that is basically where I'm rewriting it. How I'm rewriting it is dumping about 80% of this book and keeping the main character, her family, and that's about it. And her anxiety, of course. Changing it to anxiety, that is. So, yeah. That's gonna be my rewrite eventually. So then, next thing would be, are you guys, or even me, or is someone able to find the first draft somewhere? Yes. As terrible as it sounds, you can find the very first draft unedited in any way. You can find that up on my Wattpad. So enjoy the cringe fest. I apologize in advance. I'll leave you to find that. So there's that. I've got partial drafts and stuff floating around in with my writing somewhere, but I do not care to dig it out. Next thing is, what is the current status of this book as of recording this? current status is, well, what is reality in itself is finished. I'm not touching it. First draft, done. Not touching it again. But the rewrite, which at this time I am calling Anxiety Rewritten. No, not a finished title, just a placeholder title, is Anxiety Rewritten. So Anxiety Rewritten is in the planning stages, early writing, planning stages. So yeah, that's where that's sitting. I don't have a cover or a playlist for that, but I do have a playlist for what is reality, and I can link that in the description below, as I will be doing for some of the other writing projects that I will have, that I will be talking about in this series. I will list the